Hello, hello, hello. This is Talking Manchester United, a United Stand podcast with myself, Paul Gardiner, and joining me is Andrew Southwick. Andrew, how are you, my friend?
Oh man, Paul, I can't imagine feeling any better than I do right now. You know, we got a huge win on Sunday. I mean, 4-0. There is literally nothing you're playing with that. Matthew McFadden is in about 12 hours going to be on a plane. I mean, we're living the dream over here.
It was a pretty spectacular result. One that I don't think anybody would have predicted, a 4-0 win at home, especially against Chelsea. We don't, our record against Chelsea isn't exactly great at home or away. And then obviously there was the whole, Solskjaer versus Lampard thing as well in the background. I don't know. I was a bit nervous before the game. I think the United Stand put out a tweet asking for predictions, and I thought, you know what? I think it's going to be 2-2. What was your prediction for the game?
I think if I remember correctly, it was 2-1.
To United, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, 2-1 United. Yeah, I thought for sure that home match, first game of the season, having a little bit of a mix up, I thought for sure we would at least come in and win because I knew we'd have Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire in the lineup, and that right there was enough reason to just be happy.
And on the topic of the lineup, I think everybody would say the same thing. I was very, very happy with the lineup, especially when I seen, because this was my fear, as we discussed last week, that Nemanja Matic would be picked over Scott McTominay to play in that midfield. So I'm absolutely delighted that Matic didn't start the game, didn't even feature in the game. What were your thoughts on the lineup?
You know what? There was actually, if you really get down to it, there was one big surprise that came out of that lineup. Besides the fact that Matic wasn't in the starting 11, Chris Smalling and Phil Jones weren't in the starting 11. Actually, Tuanzebe made the bench over them.
Smalling and Jones weren't even in the squad.
They were both up in their in like their players box or whatever it's called. But the biggest surprise to me was that Andres Pereira got the start at the 10. I thought for sure we wouldn't see Andres Pereira anywhere but on the bench to start the season.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me as well. I did expect Juan Mata to be starting, or at least Jesse Lingard to be starting at number 10.
Yeah, exactly. I thought for sure that'd be what we see, but the lineup came out and Jesse Lingard. I mean, I guess you could say that Jesse and Andres both could play either one of those two roles, the right wing /
Well, it did look as though they did alternate a couple of times, as did Rashford and Martial. We'll come to that shortly.
But it was a overall. I was extremely and happy to see, Mason Greenwood make the bench, to see, Axel Tuanzebe make the bench. Nemanja Matic is exactly where he should be, on the bench. It was overall, there's nothing in that starting 11 that we were like, he shouldn't be in there. Yeah, maybe he shouldn't be in there. Everybody basically was like, yeah, I get why they're where they're at.
And it's refreshing to see as well, because so many times under Mourinho, under Van Gaal, so many times the lineups were released and we'd be thinking to ourselves, why is he in there? Why is he in there? He's in there every week. He's rubbish. Why is he in there? And every time the lineup came out, so often, if not almost every time, we were always disappointed and frustrated with the lineup. So it's refreshing to come into this new season, the first season under Ollie. This is now his... obviously when he joined midway through last season, there was already a lot of players that were getting regular first team football, and he sort of stuck with it for a little while. But he's come into this season, right? This is I'm picking my team now afresh from, had a good pre-season. I know what all the players are about. This team I'm picking now is going to be mine. Obviously the players aren't his, because obviously a lot of them were bought previously, but the way he set it up and the 11 that he picked, that's now his 11. So it's refreshing to see a team that so many of us would have picked as well, bar maybe one or two players, which again is refreshing. It's like he can see what we've been seeing this whole time.
Yep. And honestly, I do want to say, because there was a lot of people that thought that, Ollie didn't know what he was doing because last year he kept playing the same people over and over again. And I just feel like last season Ollie didn't want to come in and make too many waves. He didn't want to, try and completely change things up, create a lot of unrest and a lot of unhappiness. I feel like he did the right thing, as much as it was frustrating at times, by picking the people that he did.
Absolutely. So a great starting lineup. Let's hope that that continues throughout the rest of the season. So let's get more into the game now. So the game starts. The build up to the game. We're all excited. We're looking forward to it. Not the best start, Andrew.
Nope. Nope. It was Chelsea's start was very reminiscent of all of our starts last year under Ollie, and honestly under Mourinho as well. The first 15 minutes, we'd come out guns blazing, all over the team, always looking hot. And then after that first 15 minutes, it's just like we slowly started to be like, all right, we can't keep up. All right, we can't keep up. All right, we can't keep up. And I was happy to see that we made it past that first 15 minutes because, as MK just mentioned here, Abrams probably should have had a goal in that first 15 minutes. And we could have easily been one down inside of 5 minutes. We kind of weathered the storm. The Tommy Abrams chance that he got, he was slightly lucky to have the ball fall to him like that.
That was fortunate. Yeah.
But, football isn't always about skill. There is luck that is involved at times. You just get a lucky bounce. And I feel like Chelsea were getting some very lucky bounces inside of that first 15. But after that, really settled in. And you really felt like Chelsea weren't really endangering us that much. Like all of their shots that were on target were basically straight at De Gea. There he did have to make one or two good saves, but for the most part, we weathered the storm. We went out and got the penalty, and then the second half we just took over the game and really turned the screws and just said, you know what, this is our game. You're going to have to deal with us.
And that's what we like. That is what we like. Our Anthony Martial started in the central number 9 position with Marcus Rashford out on the left. Now we've seen in that first half in particular, we've seen that Chelsea were getting a lot of success down their right, down our left. Luke Shaw often getting outnumbered 2-1 with Azpilicueta and Pedro. So we did struggle, and that was where Chelsea were getting a lot of success. And they did mention it during the game in commentary as well. And Gary Neville spoke about it after the game, or even during the game. He was saying he doesn't know if it's a tactical decision for Rashford not to be tracking back and helping out Luke Shaw, or if it was just a case of it was a duty that he was ignoring. I think it was tactical. When you look back at pre-season, there were a few games where the front three, almost all three of them, would literally stay there, and we would literally just defend with a back six, the 4 defenders, and the 2 midfielders would get back and help out, and then the front 3 would quite literally stay forward. And I think that was what we were seeing in the first half. And then I think that Ollie obviously recognised the threat that Chelsea posed down that left hand side, down that right hand side, or our left. And obviously had a word with Rashford either just before half-time or during half-time and said, look, you need to cover off that right wing, and we've seen that in the second half. So I'd like to think it was tactical. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it was tactical, or do you think it was just a case of Rashford was neglecting a duty and Ollie had to give him a good talking to?
It definitely had to have been tactical, and the reason why I have to say that is because you did mention it, the fact that the second half came out and we noticed Rashford tracking back a lot farther. It's a smart way to at least start out the game. Maybe you could make the argument that maybe we should have adjusted earlier because, and honestly, the reason why, I know we'll talk about him later, but the reason why all of the attacks started coming down our left-hand side, Saka was acting like the fucking brick wall that he is. I mean, we should just have Trump hire him to guard our southern border. It was literally, he was everywhere. Nobody could get past him. It got to a point in the game where we were literally seeing stop their drives down our right-hand side, would even get into our third because they knew they weren't gonna get past him.
Yeah.
So Luke Shaw, I mean, Luke's gonna have, like, we talked about this to but Luke Shaw is gonna have to step up.
Yes.
He's
yes.
going to have to get better. This first game, I mean, I'm going to give him some grace inside of these first 5 games. He's adjusting to a brand new starting backline to adjust to things. But just quick, because we can't just be constantly having this, bombardment and having Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial or whoever's going to start on that left wing just be constantly having to worry about helping him out. We need to be able to, press higher up the field. And when we were pressing higher, we were winning possession back.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need Luke Shaw to step up his game. And ultimately, right now, like I said, I'm going to give him grace, but there is a possibility we may be looking for somebody to bring in for competition for him if he continues to play this way.
Oh, I don't doubt that for a second. I think we will. We have been linked with a few left backs over the last couple of transfer windows. Maybe not so much this summer, just gone, but previously we have been. So I think left back was one of the areas that Mourinho was looking to strengthen, because Mourinho didn't always feel that comfortable with Luke Shaw. And he sort of reiterated that with a sort of a dig towards Luke Shaw. During the post-match discussions on Sky Sports, he was talking about, or they were talking about, how Harry Maguire was constantly having to go out wide to help Luke Shaw, or to cover him, because he was caught out of position after he was going forward. And Mourinho sort of sat there and said, "Yeah, Maguire's going to have to do that a lot." It was sort of like a small dig at Luke Shaw, which is a little bit unfair, but at the same time, Luke Shaw, like you quite rightly say, Andrew, there is a lot of room for improvement there, and we know he can be a fantastic left back. We just need to get it out of him, and that's something I think Ollie will focus on.
Oh, absolutely. I've got every bit of confidence in Ollie, because this is the thing. We all wanted to see this season. We all had our questions about if we could make top 4, how far we could push, blah, blah, blah. I think the thing we all cared about seeing the most was improvement.
Yes.
Inside of this first game, definitely say that there was improvement. There was a lot of improvement. And we looked good against a Chelsea side that it's not the same Chelsea of old. It's not like, where they're not the perennial title contenders and stuff like that. They definitely are missing some attacking flair. Chelsea, a team that we have struggled against since Abramovich bought the team.
Yep.
So we went out there and we handled our business, and 4-0 is more than handling our business. We're currently sitting at second place in the league.
Let's hope that lasts. I can't see it, but let's hope.
We're gonna win the league, bro. We're gonna win the league.
Well, let's move into the midfield then. So we were just talking about how much success Chelsea were having down our left-hand side. Another player playing towards the left-hand side was Scott McTominay, who played on the left of the midfield too. Not the best first half from him, giving the ball away a few times, but as did Pereira, as did Paul Pogba. The midfield generally, for the most part of the game at least, was quite poor. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
But this is something that we knew was going to happen, because this is an area we wanted to address in the transfer market.
That's the reason why I have to laugh, is because we all knew that we needed at least a midfielder. We needed a midfielder. Bring in somebody. And at the end of the day, we didn't. And now we're going to have to live with what we've got. Midfield did grow into the game. Like you mentioned, we really did struggle in midfield. But Scott in particular really grew into the game in the second half, really started taking control of it. You noticed him kind of spraying passes all about, kind of being the Michael Carrick a lot of people think he can be. I think that overall, as the game grew, he really got comfortable. Something that he's gonna have to get comfortable, because I think that him and Pogba are the primary midfield two this season. I think that the number 10 spot really is the only spot that is truly up for grabs this season.
I would agree with you 100% there, because other than Scott McTominay, I don't think Pereira really fancies himself as the deep lying midfielder. I don't fancy him as deep lying midfielder because he's just too reckless. He gives away far too many free kicks in that role. So Scott McTominay definitely is really unchallenged. I mean, you've got Michael Carrick, Christ's sake. You've got Nemanja Matic there. Obviously, we know that he's not going to pose much of a threat to Scott McTominay. Then the other person really that you could think of is James Garner, but I don't think he's going to get much of a look in this season, unfortunately, because he's been playing brilliant still in the under 23s, or under 18s, whoever.
Goals.
Yes, absolutely fantastic. I know.
Absolute bangers he put in.
But that midfield is definitely an area that we need to improve on. Let's talk about Paul Pogba briefly, because he was another player. I'm not singling him out. I mean, I am, but it's going to be for a good reason if you just bear with me 1 second. But like everybody else in that team, in the first sort of 10, 15, 20, you probably could argue the whole of the first half, he wasn't that great. Losing the ball, running into trouble. But they all did it. But having said that, the 2 passes that he made for the goals, that is why you need to have him in the team. We have nobody else in our squad that is capable of making passes like that. Having that type of vision, he is so important to us.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, like you said, Paul did not have a great first half, but in all fairness, almost the entire team didn't have a great first half. We got the penalty goal, and that's and is what it is. You're going to have those. Showed his quality very, very quickly into the second half, and basically back plays. I mean, Paul, and I actually will say this too, Paul, in terms of what he was doing defensively. I noticed him tracking back. I noticed him trying to stop passes and trying to get in the way of passes. He was definitely participating more on the defensive end of things. And that at least made me happy to see, because there was times last season where it definitely didn't look like he wanted to get involved with defensive duties.
True.
He got involved in defensive duties. He got stuck in on a couple of tackles. He was definitely doing what he needed to do in terms of if we're going to be doing the 4-2-3-1. Did in that game is almost exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, I would agree.
That specifically the pass on the Rashford goal.
Yes, that was spectacular.
He pinned it absolutely perfectly. Rashford took the absolute perfect first touch and just put it right past the keeper. Dream of anything better than that. And then as the game grew, and you saw it on the assist to Dan James, making the run late into the game.
Yep.
Taking a strong run too. I think if I heard correctly, I think Ollie wanted him to take it himself. I was just like, you know what? He like you said, he had the vision.
That's right. That's right. And obviously Dan Jones is quite speedy, so I could imagine that Paul Pogba, he was on his own for a moment, and I just imagine obviously Dan James was just out of shot, but you can just imagine him just sprinting from his own half trying to catch up. But yeah, great vision from Pogba. I think if it had been last season, he probably would have tried a shot. Just out of not carelessness, but just wanting to be the Paul Pogba show maybe. I think that if this was last season, he probably would have tried taking the shot Probably hitting it straight at the keeper, putting it wide. One of the two. But no, he was good. He waited and waited and waited, and then obviously played that pass into the feet of Dan James, which was absolutely spot on. But yeah, Paul Pogba, absolutely indispensable player at the moment. Like I said, there's just no one else that can do what he does, and he's going to be a very, very big part of our season this year. It's just going to be a shame if he decides to leave at the end of this season. I mean, I'll put this question to you. If we somehow do manage to get top 4 and we qualify for Champions League and we've played good football all season, Paul Pogba's got a bag load of assists, a good handful of goals, do you think that Pogba's mind could be changed?
I think that all people's minds could be changed. So Paul Pogba goes into that. I mean, you look at the comments that he had come out. I mean, like, because he did, kind of talk about the transfer rumors of him still possibly going to Real Madrid or Juventus or one of the couple of the clubs. And he said, I'm a Manchester United player right now, and I'm having fun with my teammates. If we continue that fun, if we continue the press up high, get those good counterattacking goals. Pogba's involved, in doing everything that we all know Paul Pogba can do. Paul Pogba's mind can't be changed. I just think that the club needs to show the same commitment for wanting to win that I believe that Paul Pogba has, because I think that Paul wants to win trophies. I think he wants to win Champions Leagues. And I think that he wants to win everything.
And that is a very, very, very good point. The club has to match his ambition. And the evidence is not there that the club is showing that ambition. When you think of the fact that we didn't actually sign a midfielder. I mean, you can say, yeah, there was, the type of player we want wasn't available. Mark Goldbridge made a good point. Well, I'm going to say Mark Goldbridge. Whoever was tweeting from the United Stand main channel, we know it's not always Mark, but whoever put this particular tweet out said, are you telling me that in the whole world of football there wasn't one single midfielder available that would have suited us? Because we all know that Bruno Fernandes would have been ideal. He has everything that we're looking for in a midfielder. As does Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. He's a different type of midfielder, but at the moment we need all types of midfielder. So there are options out there. Just the club didn't appear to want to make those deals happen. So that's something that needs to be addressed next summer, maybe even in January. Although I don't think it will happen in January, but at the very least next summer, Ollie needs to sit down with Ed and say, look, if we want to keep our best players, we've got to bring in players of that caliber to keep them. You can't just have one or two and expect them to stay and keep finishing mid-table or scraping for top 4 every season. It's just not going to work.
Well, and to that point too, you said it. There was so many midfielders that we probably could have gone and had a look at. And I saw, obviously football Twitter, it can be a wild place, but there are some decent people out there. And there's a Leicester City fan that was talking about losing Harry Maguire to James Maddison. James Madison's somebody that would fit perfectly into what Ollie's wanting to do. And I think that that's ultimately what our new transfer policy is all about. It's about wanting to fit the system.
Yeah.
Bringing in big names, and it could be big names. It could wind up being big names. But they need to fit the system. They need to fit what we're trying to do. And if they don't, no way that we're going to be bringing in people. Because I do. One thing I will say, Paul, is I think that the rumors that came out that said the club will be actively looking to buy in January to continue the rebuilding process, could believe. Because it was basically the instant we all found out that we weren't going to be bringing in another midfielder, because by the night before, we weren't linked to anybody strongly.
No.
We all knew that was going to happen. And literally, I woke up in the morning, and one of the first comments I saw was that the club had apparently basically said, we're going to be, again, resuming our rebuild in January. If that's the case, expected in past years.
Yep.
That's at least a positive. If we're going to continue trying to build, and if we're going to bring in, even if we bring in one player, it's better than what we've done in the past.
Oh, yeah.
in January. We've normally been a selling club in January.
I would also fully expect to see some more players leave in January as well.
Very possible. I think we could see, maybe one of the defenders, whether that be Rojo, Smalling, Jones, whoever it is. I think we might see one of them move.
Yeah,
Um,
Darmian.
There's another one that I think we'll see move. I've heard. I mean, Darmian's out of contract at the end of the year though, so he might just stay and just pick which club he wants to go sign for.
True. Yeah, yeah.
For that at all.
Well, look, we've spoken about the midfield. Let's talk about the defence, because a clean sheet, again, it was fortunate. No, the post did help. But let's talk about our new boys.
Oof.
Harry Maguire and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Absolutely phenomenal, both of them.
The show, Paul.
Sorry?
I didn't plan on getting a wreck during the show, but you just
These things happen.
These things do happen.
But yeah, I mean, give us your thoughts on their competitive debuts.
Oh man, I mean, can we really ask for anything better? I mean, I saw somebody put a tweet out there, and it was kind of like, it made me laugh because it's literally what I thought. That it looked like every single time Harry Maguire was clearing a ball, it basically in his mind he was like, "Nope, not today. Have it. Get out of here." Like, just he made every single clearance. He was so calm, cool, and collected. What we would want from a debut from the world record signing for a defender. And then Aaron Wan-Bissaka, my God. I mean, we already talked about him being the southern border for America, Trump's wall. Can we just make him just world's defense system for all of the nuclear war that's impending? I mean, he'll just instantly be batting missiles down out of the air. The kid doesn't let anything past him. Aaron was just he legit, he has to be 10 feet tall. Nobody can put anything past him. The thing that really got me just so excited about watching him, because preseason is preseason. He obviously didn't let anything past him in the preseason, but style continued on into entirety of the game.
Yeah.
And just, man, that kid, you can tell that he just loves. And if he continues to do what he's doing, because he contributed attacking wise where needed. That's the thing. I think the best thing we could say about his attacking, got involved where needed. But if he continues this throughout the season, back for a person that is supposed to be a defender, he will be the best right back in England, and that won't even be a question if he does this all year long.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, but Paul, what did you think about the debuts of Maguire and Wan-Bissaka?
I was absolutely thrilled. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't surprised at what I seen, because obviously we've watched Wan-Bissaka all through pre-season, and every single pre-season game that he played in, he was absolute perfection in every single game. So I had absolutely no doubt, because he never looks phased. He just looks so calm, confident. You know, you can tell by someone's demeanour sometimes what sort of player they're going to be. And when you look at Wan-Bissaka, you just think this guy is just a natural. You know, nothing phases him. And the fact that he had played in the Premier League already made a name for himself at a lower club, I just had absolutely. And again, during pre-season, not only did he not seem phased by, just by playing for Man United, but also for people always say how much pressure is immediately put on your shoulders as soon as you put on that red shirt. And you just don't see that with him. In fact, you haven't seen it with any of the youth. You haven't seen it with any of the new signings. It's absolutely fantastic. They're just there. They know what they want to do. They're happy they're there. They want to be there, and it was just absolutely amazing to see. So I had absolutely no doubts in my mind whatsoever that Wan-Bissaka was going to continue that into the Premier League. And I'll say exactly the same again for Harry Maguire. Once again, a top defender. I've always rated him. Again, I've only ever seen him playing for Leicester and playing for England, but every time I've seen him play, I've thought this guy's brilliant. And one of the things that made me like him the most was the fact that not only can he defend, but he can bring the ball out and do good with it. And he can carry it. He can pick out a pass, and that was what we've been missing for so long in our back four. I mean, Lindelof can do it now and again. So to have him and Maguire able to do that is absolutely fantastic. But I had no doubts that either one of them would perform for us. So when I seen them play the way they did against Chelsea, it was absolutely no surprise to me. But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I still enjoyed it very much when you consider what we've had to put up with before those two. Ashley Young, Phil Jones. So to see them two away from the team, to see Maguire and Wan-Bissaka there was just an absolute pleasure, and I did enjoy that very much. But again, fully not surprised by the way they performed.
No, absolutely not. And so, I did want to mention one thing because I'm rewatching the game right now in the background. I didn't see the moment live, but I saw it after the fact. But I saw Paul Pogba come up to Christian Pulisic after the game and kind of like talk with him for a second. I was like, are we getting Agent Paul all over again? Because you all know that I want me some Pulisic United. I'll take those Chelsea sloppy seconds.
Yeah, you do love Pulisic, don't you? But then again, he's American, so that's obviously why.
I can't help it, man. I can't help it. But no, I mean, Paul, you're absolutely right. Just the fact that we actually have a competent center back to go alongside Victor Lindelof, and then we have the guy who could wind up being the best right back in England, and possibly best right back in the world. The kid he loves to defend. I loved the attitude and the mentality from both of them. They both came in, did their jobs, and both of them were helping to lead in the celebrations, and then the team talks when they would huddle up after goals 3 and goals 4 of just, hey, let's keep this clean sheet. Let's go. Let's keep this going.
Absolutely. Love that. And I wonder if that's something that we'll see, regularly in every game. The little huddle after the goal. I guess we'll see. Now let's talk about Daniel James. What a very, very, very special moment that was for him to get that goal. When you consider, what he's been through over the summer, definitely made up for him with that.
No, I mean, all I'm going to say, I'm going to keep my thoughts on Dan James really quick. What an absolute dream debut to United and score your first goal. Yes, it did take the deflection, but I honestly believe that shot, if it had not hit the defender, would have gone in at near post because that's where he was shooting.
It was on target, and I think the pace of it would have taken it past Kepa's foot, definitely.
Exactly. That's exactly it. He did what we all thought he would do as a super sub. Came on, worked hard. Exactly what we wanted to see, some improvement. And getting that first goal of your career at Old Trafford on your debut, that is going to settle the kid very, very nicely. So I'm excited to see him continue his career at Manchester United.
Absolutely. I'll just take a few comments from the chat here. So MK, would we take a top 4 finish over a Europa League? I think for me, I'd rather make the Champions League by being competitive all year in the Premier League. What are your thoughts there, Andrew? I think when he says over a Europa League, I think he means a Europa League win to qualify for the Champions League. So would you rather make a top 4 finish to qualify, or would you rather win the Europa League to qualify?
That's a tough one to answer because ultimately both qualify us for Champions League. But what I will say is that Champions League. So, and I will say this: if it meant we were going to finish 4th, probably take that. But if I remember correctly, if you get if you're the 4th spot in the Champions League, you have to qualify for the Champions League still, right?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think that's, if anybody in the chat knows that for a fact, please let me know. But I'm pretty sure if you are the 4th team in from your region, from the Big 5, you actually still have to qualify for the Champions League by playing a play-in game.
Oh, that's yeah. So there's a playoff you play. Yeah, I think that is the case. I think only if if you win the Champions League and you're in the top 4, I think then the 5th place becomes. I don't know how it works. I do, but I've forgotten. But that's not important right now.
No. But what I will say is that if I had the option of 4th and no Europa League, finishing 5th or 6th, and wind up winning Europa League, I may, and the only reason why I may take the Europa League title is because, number one, it would be a trophy. His first real season as a manager. And number two, it would put us into the guaranteed qualification zone and put us as like the quote-unquote number 2 team to go into that group, be like the second strongest team to go into the group.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one. I would ultimately like to be competitive throughout the league. And if we got top 4, I would probably I would probably say I would take top 4 over the Europa League, getting even if it meant 4th place. But it would be really hard for me to say that I would not take a trophy in Ollie's first season, especially one like the Europa League. While it might be a B-Tech Champions League, it's still a European night. It's still a competition that would be. I mean, Paul, how do you feel?
Well, I would definitely like us to gain qualification into the Champions League via a top 4 finish. That's the ultimate for me. I'd rather we, like you say, had a great season, establish this new style of football. But then again, we keep saying establish this new style of football. It's not. It's going back to how we should be and how we used to be. Ollie's bringing that back. So regaining that attacking, that winning mentality, having a strong season, team playing well, qualifying in comfortably in the top 4. That's what I would like to see. But at the same time, whilst we're in the Europa League, I do want us to try and go and win it, just to make a statement, if anything.
So, Paul, for me to put it is, in the group stages, I want to see the kids played and the reserves played. Once we get past the group stages, and especially depending on where we're at in the league, that will depend on how we should approach the rest of the Europa League.
Yeah.
If the Europa League 100% in the group stages should be about getting kids experience against full-grown adults and people that are there and they're trying to be the best of their league.
Yeah. JKMUFC, absolutely. This is talking about Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire. Absolutely immense from both. And with Maguire's signing, this will help Lindelof onto another level in terms of performances and confidence. As Pogba says, the beast. So let's move forward then. Let's look forward now to Wolves. We've got Wolves coming up. We know what Wolves are about. They had a strong season last season. They've got good attack, a good midfield. They've got a decent team that they can put out against us. I do feel that it's going to be a completely different challenge. It's obviously going to be a completely different challenge to Chelsea. I don't think the game is going to be as open as it was against Chelsea. I do think we'll see a lot more of United pressing. So in that respect, I mean, if you agree, obviously, Andrew, in that respect, what would you keep the same starting 11 that Ollie put out against Chelsea, a winning formula, or would you make any changes to the team against Wolves?
That's a tough one to answer, because ultimately, I don't think that Pereira had the greatest of games. And you need to build continuity. So I would say that if we were to make a change, I'm not saying that necessarily we need to, but if we were to make a change, then the only one I would make would be to guard at the 10 and then place somebody else out on the right wing, whether that be Mason Greenwood or Dan James or somebody else on the right wing. Because I feel like once Jesse went to the 10, really showed his game off. But ultimately, I mean, we kind of were talking about this beforehand, Paul, but to kind of do what they did last year, kind of be organized and sit back at the back. And then the instant that they need to break on the counter, and they fly on the counter. Very reminiscent of old school Manchester United, if I do say so, like just the way that they hit out on their counters. We need to be cautious of that. So the same 11, continue to build that continuity because that'll be what's best for the team, then that's what we should be doing.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I would make one or two changes. When you think of how we've dealt with teams previously, teams that like to defend in numbers, teams that are difficult to break down, and I think we might face that against Wolves, because they're not going to come out all attacking at us, because they know that if they leave themselves open, they know what's going to happen to them. So I think they're going to have that. They're going to bear that in mind. I mean, it's not like we're going to get up against Arsenal, City, Liverpool. These teams that are going to come to win, and win playing their brand of football. This is a team that they didn't have the freedom to do that. So I think they are all the same quality as the other teams to be able to do that. So I think we will see them sit back. We will dominate possession. We will play a lot of our football around their third. And I think what we need to do is play players who are good with the ball at their feet, can take it past players, can run into the box. And I think that one of the best players that we've got in our squad at the moment to do that is Angel Gomez. And we've seen him do that a few times. You need players like him who can, sort of weave their way into the box and either score or play 1-2 or set someone up, whatever. We need players like that. So I think, I don't know where I would put him there. I don't know if I'd put him in the front three or if I'd put him at number 10. I think I'd probably have him playing in the number 10 role. I'd keep Rashford, I'd keep Martial. I'd probably even play Greenwood on the right hand side, and then have Angel Gomez at number 10. But then I also think with teams like that, you want somebody who can score from distance. And Andreas Pereira, we've seen him several times score good goals from 20 yards out. So you need players like that. So if you can try and fit a Gomez and Pereira in there somehow, whether you play Gomez in the front three, maybe with Rashford and Lingard, and then keep Pereira in at number 10 like he started against, because Pereira, he's not going to need to be, running around too much, committing fouls and losing possession. It should be quite straightforward in terms of what the players need to do against Wolves. And I think having players like Gomez, maybe even Juan Mata, because we know that he's pretty nifty with the ball at his feet, but I think I'd prefer Gomez. Definitely have a Gomez in there and maybe a Pereira in there in the lineup.
Yeah, no, and expect from Ollie. I think that's the best way to put it. From what I would expect from Ollie, I wouldn't expect to see many change-ups. But if you were to put Angel Gomez at that 10 role, I think that is a great place for him to be, especially in a game like this. As you mentioned, he has that ability with the ball at his feet. He's got the, that electric ability to make people, get off their butts in the seats and stand up because they're excited about what's about to happen. I think that him at that 10, and then if we did play Greenwood at that right wing, which would make it so that entire front three would be kind of, grafting across each other. Nobody would have necessarily a specific position, but they could all play anywhere.
Yeah.
That could be pretty devastating. That could be really, really devastating for a team like Wolves.
Absolutely. And Jake in the chat, I think this is on Pereira. Still got the assist, and this is a perfect game for him to play. He's technically great, and we will need somebody who can pick out a pass or a quality ball like the cross against Chelsea. Put him at number 10 and interchange with Lingard. So that's pretty much what they did against Chelsea. So Jake, I guess you're saying keep the same team. He probably will start with the same 11. I think I probably would expect that. But with the type of opposition we've got and the fact that we've struggled in the past with the likes of Rashford, Martial, Pogba, McTominay, with those players in the team, we've struggled to break through these packed defences quite often. So I think having a player like Angel Gomez, a Greenwood as well, or I'm not sure how you would fit them all in, but definitely one, if not two, at least of those players should start for me at least. Anyway, that's what I would do, or at least have Gomez on the bench. So if Plan A isn't working, then bring him on for at least a good 20-30 minutes in the second half.
And here's an idea. I mean, I think that Scott had a really good game, but I don't know if this type of game suits Scott. Pereira or Fred in that that role there next to Pogba. I mean, I would say probably Pereira, even though Pereira is good at the 10. But like you mentioned, he can get a good long shot off. He can get in a good pass. That and then
Actually, I think Fred could be a good shout because then again, Pereira, I suppose, because at least they've got that mobility where if Wolves do hit us on the break, at least we've got that mobility then to act as a bit of cover.
And that's what I worry about the most in this game against Wolves. We obviously did not beat Wolves one time last year.
Nope.
So I worry about them hitting us on the counter because they are phenomenal at that against the top six. I feel like they are a team built for the top six. So we need to be cautious with them, but at the same time, we need to take our chances.
Yep, no, I would absolutely 100% agree. I'm going to take it over to Twitter now, Andrew, and let's have a look. So we put a tweet out earlier on today saying we'll be recording this week's podcast tonight, so get your topics or questions in below. We've had a few responses, so I'm going to go with the first one. I think, Andrew, you may have seen this already, because apparently this guy posted this question to you anyway, probably on your channel. Is there room for Sanchez and Mata in our quarant? Let me try that again, shall we? Is there room for Sanchez and Mata in our current squad, though? I really wish there's a way we can involve these two. I feel they still have much to offer. What are your thoughts on that? Oh, I think I've lost you, Andrew.
That's
oh, there you
me.
are. Yeah. Yep, go for it.
No, I'm still here. Can you hear me? I was just gonna say that's a no from me.
Fair enough.
I as much as I want to believe that Sanchez can become good and blah blah blah, it's too late for me to keep giving Sanchez chances. You just can't do it. Okay with Mata is somebody that if you're playing him at that number 10, hell yeah, let Mata go out there and go do what he's done his entire career when he's played to the 10, and that's be the quality player and that finesse, fine arts type player at the 10. I just don't think there's any way that you can have, at the very least, you can't have both of them on the same pitch.
No, I would agree. Yeah. Mata, definitely. There is definitely still. I think he offers a lot. He scores goals as well from playing in that central position, as well as setting them up. I definitely think there's definitely room for him to play and feature regularly in that number 10 role. Like you said earlier on, the number 10 role is still very much up for grabs. As for Sanchez, I'm really not sure. I think his time is done. It's quite sad, really, but you know, we know the sort of player that he can be. It just doesn't look like he's going to reach that height. I mean, Ollie might have a plan for him. I really don't know. Jake says there Sanchez could be perfect for the number 10. He could well be. Maybe he'll be used there. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Let's see what else is going on Twitter. Unless, Andrew, you've got anything else to add to that?
I'll just say this: if we give him a couple of chances at the 10, then I'm okay. Like, okay, do it, whatever. We can't give him like an extended run. I'm sorry, like we don't have the ability to in our season to be able to do that. Just Sanchez is somebody that I think that the risk isn't worth the reward, because I'm doubting the reward that we could possibly get even in return for the risk.
Yeah. Sean Pring at Sean Pring 98. When do you think we can get the chance to get Gomez, Chong and Greenwood time in the Premier League? So when can we give them time in the Premier League? Or do we just let them loose in the Europa and give the likes of Paul Pogba and Rashford a rest then? Also, how should we approach the Europa League? Is it achievable silverware? But is it worth risking the league to go out all for that? What are your thoughts?
So I'll start off with the Europa League thing. We did kind of cover that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that the opportunity to get silverware is something that Ollie might take, depending on how the group stages go. But getting them time, Europa League, especially in those group stages, is going to be the perfect time to get Greenwood, Gomez, and Chong all on the pitch at the same time and give them minutes. will see Mason Greenwood feature a lot in the Premier League this season. I think we're going to see him feature a lot in the Premier League this season. I think that ultimately we won't see as much of Tahith Chong and Angel Gomez besides like bench spots, and then maybe, if an injury does happen to a player in their position, then maybe they take over that spot. But I based on the preseason alone, has every opportunity to get on in the Premier League, because I think that they are ready to go out there and go do that. Go show their talents against the best of the best type of competition. But ultimately, the best time to get those guys minutes at the same time is in the Europa League / lower stages of cup competitions.
Yeah, no, I think I touched on this last week or the week before. In terms of I mentioned it about 5 minutes ago as well. In terms of the Europa League, I do think we should be going for it. Again, we're Manchester United. We want to be fighting on all fronts. And I think that, it's a European trophy. I think we should be going for it. Yes, obviously, when you do that, you do risk league position. But what you got to think is that all the teams that we're fighting for, fighting that top 4 position for, are all also in European competition and will be trying to win it. And we have a squad. We have a squad to use to be able to compete in both. So I do think that it's down to Ollie to manage that, to get the best, to get the best out of the players, to be able to compete in all competitions. Which brings us into the next point. When do we think we get a chance to see Gomez, Chong and Greenwood? Do we let them loose in the Europa League? As I said last week, not necessarily. I mean, yes, we should use them in the Europa League. We should also use them in the Premier League, the FA Cup and the League Cup. I think we should use them in all competitions, because we could find ourselves in an instance where we might have to play, I don't know, Norwich on a Sunday afternoon, and then on Thursday we might have to play, I don't know, name a good team in the Europa League, a strong team, Ajax, and they're Champions League. But you get what I'm saying. We might have a tough game coming up in the Europa League. In that point, you're going to want to play your younger players, maybe against Norwich, give them some experience in the Premier League, and save your best players for that big game in the Europa League. You never know. We might have a couple of tough teams in the group stage. You just don't know. So I think you have to blood them, give them experience in all competitions, not just save them for cup games, because I think that's where, because you often hear that players perform better in certain competitions. What you don't want is for a player to go down that sort of that line, so to speak, where they've only ever played in a cup competition, where it's a different type of game, different type of challenge. You want them to have Premier League experience as well. So that's my thoughts on that one. I think we have time for one more. Rob Allen, who is our number 10, I think we've discussed that already. It's very open at the moment. It could be either Pereira, Lingard, Matau or Gomez at this point. For me, at least, anyway, it depends on who we're playing. Michael at Mango Sally. I love that. I thought Pogba was really quite awful in the first half, despite his massive response after half-time. Do you think it's indicative of a deeper problem with Pogba, that he can really be a liability when he's not on? I think we've discussed Pogba quite a lot and at length. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew?
Honestly, if you are listening, my friend, if you go back and listen to what we talked about, we basically did answer this question. But I do want to say really quick, so Jake put a comment here inside of our Discord chat, which, guys, plug, go check out our Discord.
Yep.
We're live when we do these shows, but Jake did just say that they don't need the likes of Angel Gomez, Tahith Chong. They don't need U23 football. They need to play senior football. They're ready for it.
Yeah.
And I agree with that comment 100%.
Absolutely, 100% agreed. I think we will wrap it up just there. So I was just reading MK's comment then. To be honest with you, Andrew, I did not think it would go on this long, considering there was only 2 of us. But hey, it's a good thing.
The group, man.
Absolutely. Andrew, thank you for joining me. Do you want to give out your details?
Absolutely, guys. Come over and check out my Twitter at RedBeardedRed. I say it every week, talk all sports, talk Manchester United, Phoenix Rising. You're going to see more Arizona Cardinals talk now that the season is getting on, and we've got Kyler Murray, who's the truth. But I'm just excited for this season, man. I'm excited to talk over on my channel, The Red Bearded Red on YouTube. Go check it out. I try and go live as much as possible. But I love talking sports, guys. Just come and talk with me. I'll basically anytime if you comment on any of my tweets, I can almost guarantee that I will tweet you back.
Yes, that is the truth right there. All of Andrew's links to all of his social media will be in the description. So if you didn't get any of that, look in the description on the YouTube channel, and it'll all be there for you. Thanks everyone for tuning in and listening. Thanks to the guys in the Discord chat here for joining us as well. Appreciate that. You can follow me at Paul Gardiner MU on Twitter. The Talking Manchester United podcast Twitter account is at United Stand Pod. I think that about covers everything. Obviously there's the main United Stand fan channel at United Stand MUFC, and also I think that's about it. Excellent. So. Well, that's it then. So we'll be back next Tuesday, hopefully celebrating another victory against Wolves. Thanks everybody for listening. Oh yes, as well as us being on YouTube, we are now on Spotify as well. So if you do have a Spotify account and you'd rather listen to the podcast on Spotify, we are on there now as well as pretty much any other podcast platform you can think of. We're there. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back next week.